Southern Comfort follows Robert Iad, a transgender man in Georgia who is dying of ovarian cancer. Robert's chosen family, a group of trans men and his girlfriend Lola Cola, who is also trans, care for him at the end of his life. I will propose that because of rigid gender expectations, transgender people affirm each other's gender so that they can feel more comfortable in a society in which cisgender people typically read gender based on presentation. I will apply Halberstam's female masculinity and Connell's hegemonic masculinity and emphasize femininity and other relevant sources. The men are exchanging stories of their surgeries and how they were treated.
Mentality. We cannot create men from second-class citizens, and they refuse.
Robert, Maxwell and Cass are men and fit into a hegemonic masculinity, but because of their assigned gender, they are not accepted fully and they receive a lack of care and effort from doctors. Their desire to be seen as male is seen as spoiling the hegemonic masculinity that has a hold. Hegemonic masculinity refers to the societal power that men possess, legitimizing the subordination of women and minority genders. R.W. Connell describes it as a social ascendancy, achieved by men due to the embedded ways in which religious doctrine, media, wages, and legal policy support specific masculinities rising to the top of society. The notion of hegemony generally implies a large measure of consent. Few men are Bogarts or Stallones. Many collaborate in sustaining those images. The men in Southern Comfort are trying to fit into this hegemonic masculinity as best they can by mimicking the traditional masculinity in Southern rural society. If someone who is perceived as a woman, and therefore lower in the social hierarchy, desires to have surgery to appear more masculine, this is a threat to that hegemonic masculinity. If anyone can pass as male, then that takes away the power that it holds. Given the available information about the challenges that rural transgender individuals face when they attempt to access healthcare and the historic lack of visible, competent and well-advertised providers, it is no wonder that transgender people have relied on social networks and on the internet as sources of vital information. The fact that the men in Southern Comfort perform a traditional masculinity also affects the women around them. Lola portrays a traditionally desirable form of femininity, with all the men fawning after her. Robert's disbelief that he is dating her shows that her transness is not something that impacts her desirability at all. To Robert and the other men, she is the height of femininity, and they show their attraction to her by acting in a gentlemanly and chivalrous way. The scenes where we see Robert and Lola together are very intimate. Their romance has traditional gender roles, with Robert taking on a protective role and Lola a subordinate one. In Halberstram's female masculinity, he states tomboyism tends to be associated with a natural desire for the greater freedoms and mobilities enjoyed by boys. As a child, his gender nonconformity was acceptable because it only applied to play and a frustration with being made to wear dresses. However, for Robert, it was much more about his identity and a sign of his discomfort in the female space. Robert and Lola's trans identities do not impact their roles in this heterosexual relationship, because their performativity is not tied to genitalia but to the roles they both take, which in turn affirms each other's gender. The men in Southern Comfort perform traditional masculinity because it is a reinforced state of hegemonic masculinity that they either have to or want to conform to, as by socializing in this masculine way, they can affirm each other in a male social space.